So we have a clinic in Northern Virginia, kind of right outside of Washington, D.C. And about this time last year, in 2011, I kept running, I'm glad you left this up here, by the way. I kept running into all these barriers, and they were insurance companies and staff stuff. And like Susan just said, I would run away from the confusion because I didn't really want to deal with it. And, I mean, I had worked, this is kind of a review if anybody was here in September, but I had worked for a hospital system, a big hospital system. I'd been a director of rehab. I had done all kinds of stuff. I trusted all my clinical skills, but nobody really ever taught me how to manage anything, because for the hospital they said, you do this and you don't get to decide, and you do it because we said do it, and I would go do it, and I could blame it on somebody else, and that was fine. And I wasn't necessarily responsible for things. And then I guess in 2005, we bought one of the outpatient clinics that the hospital had, the last one, because I got tired of working for the hospital, and so we ended up where we were. But to jump back, so in probably November, beginning of December of last year, I kept running into all these barriers, and I knew that I had this goal that I wanted to get to, and everything I tried, I just could not get through those barriers. And I didn't necessarily jump down and run into another one or shrink my goals down, because my goal is still the same goal. But I never was able to figure out how to get through. And I'd be getting stuff from these guys and other places, and so in December I started calling around and talking to different places, and just the philosophy of this, of Measurable, really meshed with what I was looking to do. And I came here for the new patient course on January 26th, and I actually had lunch with Vinod, and my goal was to be successful like he has been. And he shared some information with me, a friend of his who'd kind of started the training and never followed through with it, and even some experiences that he had. And I think my wife Dee would agree that when I decide that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I know that's what Sean has asked me to talk about. So my biggest thing is when I come, I have this goal that keeps, I'll break through these. And I realize that there's another set of them, and it's in small little increments, but since January 27th, we have gone from an average of 110 visits a week with 5 staff to we average 195 visits a week. We just have the one facility, and 11 staff, because I have hired a VPA now, who's my wife. So she's a PT as well. And yeah, I mean, the barriers keep being there, but I don't run away from them anymore. I know what to do to handle them. I have the technology. I come, I learn something. I leave, can I borrow this for a second? I leave with a whole notepad full of stuff, and I go home and I do it. I do it the next day. I sit there, I don't know if Gina's in the back, but I sit there on the couch at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and I do my online training. And I still, you call it study, I didn't really think of it as studying, but when I run into a barrier, I don't think I remember how to handle it. I pull that book back out and I read through that, and I make sure that I'm following those steps. And that was the piece I didn't have before I got to this point, was I didn't have the technology to try to get through that. And it's stuff, I know I sit in class sometimes, when I'm downstairs, and I go, really? Somebody had to tell me to do that? But that's what it was. Somebody had to tell me to do that, because for whatever reason, that information was just never, I was never thinking about it. And those barriers kept getting in my way. And yeah, that goal is still over here, and I'm getting there, but 10 months later, we've almost doubled in size in our volume. We've definitely doubled in size in our staff, and more importantly, because of the technology that I'm using that these guys are giving me, I feel like I'm much more in control of not only things in the office, it's not work, it definitely is still a goal, and I feel like I'm more in control of everything else that goes on in the rest of our lives as well. So I appreciate it.
You want to share something?
Yeah, actually, I guess the biggest thing that I've noticed in the last year is, when we first got married 18 years ago, we're both PTs. We both were in very different directions. He was an outpatient, I was in rehab, and pretty much stayed that way for most of the time. But the one thing I remember from 18 years ago was he took me into a Best Buy. It's kind of strange, but he took me into Best Buy. In Best Buy, there's signs everywhere. And his biggest goal was, this is what I want my clinic to be. I want this space. I want this. I want, the definition and where I want my space to be. And, a series of barriers kept him from doing that over the years. First it was, he had all these great plans, and they were helping the hospital develop this and then this, and every time they develop it, the hospital would shoot it down. So there was this big wellness center, they spent a year on it, they shot it down. And then we had to deal with the Redskins, and the Redskins shot it down at the last minute. So it was like all these things that kept becoming a barrier. And so, it was work, and it was very obvious in the last 5 years that it became work. And it was just, he'd come home and he'd be stressed when he came home, and he'd get up in the morning, he'd go to work, and he'd be stressed when he went to work. And I will tell you, in the last year, I see that Best Buy idea coming into play because he is so much more excited than he was. I did not work for him for the last 18 years. In the last 6 months, I have started working with him because now it's become a goal that we both desire and we both are dreaming about and we're constantly thinking about. And I think that's the thing to take out of it, is that this really does work. I mean, when he first started, I was like, okay, you go do your classes, this is great, I'll keep working. I was doing home care, everything's great. And every time he came home, I got more and more excited, and I guess now it's become, both of us, they're extremely excited, and I'm the less patient of the two. I'm like, why is the staff not wanting to do this? Why is this not happening? So
hence the BPA position.
And I think, we have, I'll take a page out of an author's book for a minute, I'll skip a word out of this, but I was saying that I'm not making this blank up. It's stuff that works. And I say that to my staff when they give me this look of, really, what? I'm not making this up. I mean, it works. And when you do it, it works. And when you go back and you do it, it works. I mean, that's how we've gotten to where we've gotten. And I'd be in the same spot, stressing over all the insurance companies and not being happy. And I'm extremely grateful for what you guys have helped me with in a short period of time. So I appreciate it.